Have you ever been stuck in a cave?
I was spelunking in college with a few friends in a cave that was clearly posted property, so we shouldn't have been there in the first place. This cave was pretty popular, though, and I had been there a few times prior. Anyway, I was exploring a tunnel that I hadn't been in before, as this cave branched in a ton of places, and I was going through this tiny hole which opened up to a larger open area. I got halfway through the hole and was stuck. I couldn't force myself back or forward, and I started to panic. It was the worst feeling I've ever had. I was in this cave with 2 other friends, no cell service, and even if we were able to get help, there was no way rescuers could get there anytime soon or bring any sort of equipment. I was stuck for about 5 minutes, which seemed like 5 hours, and finally forced my way through, but I was pretty badly bruised and scraped. What had happened was my belt buckle was big enough that it caught on the rock, and since my arms were ahead of my body and my friends were already through the passage, they couldn't pull me backward. Anyway, I took off my belt and got through fine on the way back. It was scary as hell, though.
Didn't really get stuck in a cave, but this is worth sharing. I went to Maquoketa Cave State Park in Iowa with 2 friends. In one particularly small cave we decided to explore, starting with a narrow 15-meter belly crawl. At the opening, a lot of cobwebs blocked the entrance, but they seemed to clear up after a few feet. I was the most experienced caver, so I went first and did the belly crawl pretty quickly. I came out in a small domed room, about 1.5 meters tall and about 4 meters across. I had some time before my friends made it, so I was describing the room to them. I looked up at the ceiling and gasped a bit. I'm not afraid of spiders, but the sheer volume of them caught me off guard. It must have been thousands, all hanging from the ceiling with egg sacs all around them. I called to my friends, "Hey guys, there's a lot of spiders hanging from the ceiling. Don't stand up when you get here." My friends were a little more wary of spiders and were asking questions about them. "How big are they? What color are they? Are they furry?" I said, "They're not that big. They kind of look like black widows, but they're not. They're the wrong color. They're brown. The legs look a little lighter than the body." My friend, a Wisconsin DNR warden, yelled, "Really? Do they have a small pattern on their back, sort of like a violin?" Yes. By this time, my friends were about caught up with me. My friend, the DNR warden, burst into the room, looked up, shuddered a bit, and then forced himself to look at one of the spiders up close. The color in his face drained out, and he screamed, "Get out! Everyone get out of the cave!" He didn't say any more, as he was already scrambling out of the cave as fast as he could. It took us all about 20 minutes to get into the room, and it took us about 3 minutes to get all the way out of the cave. When we finally got out, the other 2 of us were confused. My warden friend said, "Those were brown recluse, some of the more venomous spiders in North America. We were in their lair. When they bite you, you go through excruciating pain for a few days, skin necrosis, and then possibly die." We didn't go into any more caves with cobwebs in them for the rest of that trip.
I was caving with my husband and my sister's husband in Bowdoin back in the day. Brother-in-law took a side passage which was about 14 inches high and 3 feet wide, goes a ways, takes a right turn, and disappears. We sat around and ate a snack and messed with our packs and listened to him working his way to wherever. Then he got quiet. We waited. Finally, he calls out, "Guys, I think I'm stuck. I can't go forward, I can't turn around, and I can't back up." Well, we knew we could call out a rescue, and there was a big group of drunk cavers nearby, but we had no idea if a rescue would be physically possible anyway. Eventually, with lots of grunting and groaning, he made it back out under his own power after about 45 minutes, with scrapes and abrasions and bruises. He wasn't quite as adventurous after that.
My first cave trip ever, I was somewhere around 10 years old. My dad decided it was a good time to take the boys caving, and so off we went with our army flashlights in tow. At the time, we didn't have a map of the cave we went to visit, and we ended up getting stuck in a circular room with a small, easily missed exit. After about 4 hours, all of our lights had run out, and we were left huddled together in the pitch black while my dad led "Row, row, row your boat" in an effort to keep us calm. After about 3 hours of singing in the cave, my mother decided it was time to call out for help, and eventually, I'm unsure of the time frame, someone came to find us and lead us out of the cave. I've since become an experienced caver and have been in that exact cave many, many times. It's interesting to go through that little room now and remember how dangerous the relatively innocuous room once was. It never fails to amaze me how quickly innocent mistakes can turn into deadly errors in caves. That particular cave has been the most frequently called out rescue site in our immediate area for years.
I was diving through a sump in a cave. It was maybe 3 feet long and 2 feet deep, but I had never done anything like it before. One guy in my crew set up a line that went from one side of the sump to the other, so that when we went, we could pull on the rope to let the other side know that we had made it. The water was freezing cold. Getting in up to my neck put me in instant hypothermia mode. My breathing got really shallow and quick, and my heart rate accelerated. When I put my head under the water, everything slowed down. I used the rope over top, hand over hand, to pull myself through, but it felt like hours. As I got close to the end, I felt a snag. My cave suit got caught on a rock underwater, but I didn't have enough energy to panic. I felt a hand on my helmet. Then it grabbed and it pulled me out of the water, ripping the cave suit, but potentially saving my life. I have not been underwater in a cave since.
This isn't the worst caving story ever, but I used to lead my cave trips with my buddies. Always took it seriously, always had a pre-cave talk about being safe, not doing anything dumb, the usual stuff. Anyways, we explored a new cave we hadn't been to. This cave immediately set the tone, because it was the first cave that had a big old corrugated metal pipe with a ladder in it that you had to climb down in to get into the cave. Not bad, right? Well, the creepy part was, we had to stop at the cave owner's house first and pick up the key. See, the corrugated pipe with the ladder had a metal gate on the front side of it, so no one could just enter the cave at any given time. That was an eerie feeling. Locking that gate and locking ourselves in that cave. Anyways, once we got past that mental obstacle, we had a load of fun. Cool cave, cool formations, cool routes and squeezes. Everyone was having a blast. Then we decided it was time to head out. This cave was a little different than a lot of the muddier caves I'd been in. This one was a lot more rockier and not as easy to pick out little spots one could remember. There weren't a lot of obvious, oh, we turned down this way type of clues for us to remember. I always take my time and look back at where we came from, because going in and coming out look completely different. If you ever want to change the mood of your caving group real fast, all you have to say is, all right, I'm pretty sure I know where we're at, but I'm not 100% sure. That ended up being the case on the way back out of this cave. We got turned around for probably 20 minutes and I could cut the tension with a butter knife. I had nothing but confidence on my face, but I was absolutely unsure on the inside. I knew we'd find our route back out because it wasn't that large of a cave, but at the same time, there was a slight question mark. Fortunately, we all made it out and we didn't lose the key to unlock the gate to release ourselves from the cave depths.
We were in a cave we knew particularly well. We'd entered, got pretty far back, and decided to take a break. I only wanted a sip of water, but my buddies wanted a 10-15 minute break to just chill out. So I had my water and threw my helmet back on and said, I'm gonna explore over here for a couple minutes while y'all hang. That was my first mistake. Like I said, I've been in this cave a lot and still know it well years later. But there's offshoots I hadn't explored entirely yet. We were close to one, so that's where I headed off. This cave was muddy. I walked up a big old mud hill and then walked down the other side of it. I could barely hear the laughter and conversations from my group at the top of the hill, and by the time I made it down the mud hill, I couldn't hear them at all. The bottom of this muddy hill led me to a giant mud wall, except the bottom right corner of this mud wall had been dug out. The dugout section wasn't very large. Inside the dugout hole was a dip, kind of like a slide. I looked at it, saw that there was a room on the other side, and said to myself, all right, let's do it. Second mistake. So I wiggle myself down this little rabbit hole of a muddy slide. It's probably 4 to 5 feet in total, so not that long or hard to do. Once again, it's easy to slide down mud to some extent. This was thick, grabby mud, clay-like more than anything. I get through. I'm in a room where I can't stand up. The room itself was no more than 4 feet wide, 5 feet long and maybe 3 feet high. But there's another little dug-out rabbit hole on the other side of this small room. Side note, I'm in a caving suit, which isn't the most breathable material, and you can work up a sweat pretty quickly. So I'm in this small space where I don't have a lot of breathing room. Mentally, I was semi-suffocating, and it was getting stuffy in there. I look at the second rabbit hole and go, nah, I'm too far away. My friends can't hear me, and I can't hear them. They're probably ready to pack up and carry on. Time to get out. So I turn my attention to getting out of this little muddy room I'm in, and the only way out is back up this grabby muddy rabbit hole I shimmied down in. I go head first, belly down, and start to creep up. Halfway through, I realize this ain't going to work because of the dip in the middle of this chute. The dip was making me flex my back way too much upwards. I couldn't make it work, and I need my hands for leverage, which I couldn't use because I went head first. So here I am trying to force myself up this muddy incline with a dip head first, hands by my side, and trying to use my feet to force myself out. Well, after a couple minutes of breathing heavy, moving a lot, and getting nowhere, I stopped. Fear hit me. I'm stuck. I'd only mentally gotten freaked out once before, and here I am going on my second freak out potentially. I stop, take a deep breath, and wiggle myself backwards back into the small room. By this time, I'm sweating hard. I take my helmet off, rip open my caving suit, and lie there for a minute. Collect my thoughts. I got down here. I can get out. After a couple minutes of trying not to piss myself, I knew what I needed to do. So I strapped the helmet back to my head. I had to go on my back, arms first through the hole, head next, and shimmy myself up this muddy slide. It took a lot of effort. Once again, I'm going against gravity in this sticky-ass clay mud, but I slowly but surely worked my way out of this little muddy rabbit hole. The moment I got through, I stood up, walked back to my group, said, "Give me a minute," and told them how dumb I'd just been. Everyone got a little laugh in, but it wasn't lost on them that I looked mentally drained for a while. Good times.
Okay, so how do you get out if you get stuck in a tight space?
Well, as my father once told me while jammed in a cave in eastern Kentucky, you either calm your dumbass down, take a few deep breaths, and relax until you can wiggle back, or you hope the hypothermia kills you before it rains, 'cause drowning is an awful way to go, and the water gets a lot higher than where you're at.
It's never okay to go caving alone. Never. Always go with a buddy, at least one person. But if you do find a hole during your solo hike, don't go in if you feel it could get you into trouble further in. You can explore the entrance, but the moment the passage turns into a squeeze, back out immediately. Don't risk it. But if for some reason you find yourself stuck in a squeeze on your own, stop struggling. Calm yourself down. Think about which part of your body you can move freely. Then strategize how to move yourself out slowly. Operative word is slowly. You don't want to make rash, impulsive decisions and expand lots of energy. Take it easy. Be as relaxed as possible. Relax your limbs and muscles. Calm your nerves and slowly slither your way out. Never panic. Because if you do, your muscles tend to tense up, and then it'll be even harder to get out of the squeeze. Just relax and be as flexible as possible, then push your way out.
Listening to all of the stories here, the thing about safe caving seems to be having a strict set of parameters that one must adhere to at all costs. No risk-taking, and certainly no reckless hot dogging either. Like a private pilot who has to decide how to negotiate deteriorating weather, a caver must always make the right decision. Personally, I'm firmly in the frick that noise group when it comes to caves. But I have much respect for those who have done it for years, as they are probably pretty well-disciplined individuals. The idea of getting myself wedged into some impossible crevice or stumbling into a pitch-black void, no thanks. Thanks for joining us here at Night Watch. Feel free to hit subscribe if you haven't already. And if you liked what you heard, hit the like button, as it helps us know what kind of stories you'd like to hear in future videos. Until we meet again.